Greetings. I'm Pastor Laura Rainwater from Parker United Methodist Church, and it's good to speak with you these last few days before Christmas Eve. Are you ready? Have you got all your lists checked off? Are you stressed? Are you worrying? Are you excited? Looking at the nativity scenes during our Advent season has been a real treat. Even yesterday, and I'm talking on Wednesday, so on Tuesday evening, there was a post on the Parker United Methodist Church Facebook page inviting people to share pictures of their nativity scenes that they have at their homes and giving a little background about why it means so much, and perhaps there's a story behind those. And I added one of my own, and I added a photo of my husband's, and so I invite you to check it out on our Parker United Methodist Church Facebook page. I'm sure you have some nativity scenes around. And if you don't, that's okay too. There are always opportunities to see others, whether they're yard ornaments or perhaps the greeting cards that we receive. There's a lot of beautiful imagery of these nativity scenes. Well, this past Sunday, Pastor Cody led us in worship and asked us to consider the shepherds. The shepherds are at that nativity scene, and she reminded us that God showed up in the field with them. They were just doing their work. They were working in the fields that night, taking care of their sheep, and all of a sudden God showed up in the message from the angels. And you know, angel actually comes from the Greek word that means messenger. So they received a message. They received a message that the newborn king was born lying in a manger and could be found in Bethlehem. And they responded by immediately going to find that child in Bethlehem. Were you surprised, or are we surprised, that the shepherds were the first to hear of this good news? Oh, the first beyond Mary and Joseph. Were we surprised that such ordinary people doing such ordinary jobs receive such extraordinary news? What does it mean that God can use the ordinary in extraordinary ways? What does it mean that we might be surprised that they were used, just as we might be surprised that God can use us? I was especially touched as Pastor Cody challenged us to see God around us, find those God moments, those God sightings, as we talked about with our kids during Vacation Bible School this past summer. When have we seen God at work, even in our lives, or in circumstances that we happen to be a part of? Pastor Cody shared a story about doing something ordinary, like going to a restaurant, and doing something that she probably thought was ordinary by seeing a mom who was struggling in the restaurant to deal with her unruly children, or children just being children. And Pastor Cody just told her that she was doing an okay job, that she wasn't alone. It was an extraordinary moment for that mom to hear such words of encouragement, or perhaps she didn't think she would ever hear them. And it was extraordinary because it helped Pastor Cody to see that God used her in that particular moment. And so she asked us to consider, where have we seen God show up in our lives? It reminded me of a time when I was early in my faith. I was in my early 20s and I had just started going to church. I had just started figuring things out, or experimenting or exploring what does it mean to be a person of faith. And I remember I had lost something very ordinary, not extraordinary at all. In fact, it was a hair clip. And I was looking for it, and I couldn't find it. And I did something unusual. I thought, I've heard of this prayer thing. Does God really care about little things like me finding something that is lost that's really insignificant? And so I stretched my prayer muscles that day and I prayed, God, help me find this thing that is lost. And within a minute or so, I saw it. It was not where I expected it to be, but it caught my attention. And in that moment, I thought, is this a God sighting? Did God help me find a hair ornament? I think it was a hair clip. Now, does God care about things like that? Maybe. Maybe not. But what I got out of that was that I did have the creator of the universe that cared about me, that cared about my situation, that cared about even something that wasn't a big deal, but showed up for me. And I've remembered that ever since, and it's probably been 30 years. When has God appeared to you unexpectedly? Or maybe it's kind of hard to see God because we don't always expect God to show up in our lives. How are we important? How are our concerns something that the God of the universe cares about? But that's the story of the incarnation. Love came down at Christmas. Love entered into our world. Love became one of us to show exactly how much we are loved. Where are you feeling God speaking to you today? Are you surprised? Do you have a lot of questions? Do you wonder about this story? And I'm here to say it's okay to wonder. It's okay to look. It's okay to go, I'm not sure about all of this, but we come and we ask those questions together. We seek the God who came to the shepherds together, whether it's today when you're watching this video, whether it's at Christmas Eve at one of our services or at another church service, or even just your own home reflection time on this holy night. And I know it's not always easy to find these moments. It's not always easy to find the celebratory mood. I was really touched by that last week during our 2 longest night services. It was a reminder for me and for all of us that things are not always going so well. Maybe we are going through our ordinary lives, but something extraordinary that's not so good happens. It was great that we had an opportunity for people just to be. We invited people in our longest night service just to be authentic in what they feel. And if that's something you need to hear today, I hope you hear it. We have a lot of exciting things happening around us, but this is also a time of stress, also a time of concern. And it's hard sometimes to see that we aren't alone with all of what's weighing upon us. And so I invite us to see the light, the Christmas light, the light from the angels, the light from the star that shone in the heavens that night when the shepherds heard the good news, the light of the star that guided those wise men, those kings, those magi to come and find the newborn king. I invite us to look and to see that there is a light shining upon us and filling us and challenging us and encouraging us. And what is it that we need to have revealed to us this day, this week, this month, this moment? So I invite us to pray that God will show up in us. Now, God is always around us, but maybe God can give us a little help just to see, to experience, and to be grateful, even if it's something as simple as finding a lost hair clip. As I was thinking about finding the Christmas light in a devotion today, I read these words that I thought were quite poetic. It's from Julie Yarborough, who was talking about the Christmas light and thinking about the shepherds that even though they were told, do not be afraid, because they were obviously afraid, but yet there was at least one shepherd that said, let's go. Let's go to Bethlehem. Even if it doesn't make sense, even if we're not really sure what all of this means, let's go. And so she invited us to consider how would we have responded if we were one of those shepherds. And yet they found the light of the world. They found the light of love in that space, that holy place with the Holy Family. And that we're all looking for a little light to shine in our lives, a little Christmas light to give us warmth and encouragement, and maybe even a little guidance. And so I conclude this time with you with these words that she shared. May this be our prayer as we wrap up our time, this time of preparing for Christmas Eve. And as a reminder that we will have 4 Christmas Eve services this year, one at 10 o'clock in the morning, one at 4, one at 6, and one at 8 p.m. Our 10, our 4, and our 6 p.m. services will be live streamed, so check us out on YouTube or on umcparker.online.church, and we'll send you those links that morning. But each of those services, even at 10 o'clock in the morning, we will shine our candles as we look for the Christmas light. Hear these words. Christmas light dawns when God's love reaches into our heart with the mystery of divine comfort. Christmas light dawns when the presence of God assures us that there is life beyond the death of our loved ones. Christmas light dawns in moments when our heart is strangely touched by joy. Christmas light dawns when someone reaches out in love. Christmas light dawns when we reach out to someone in love. Christmas light dawns when we receive an unexpected blessing. And Christmas light dawns when we are a blessing to others. So as children of light, may we claim the gift of God's love in the certainty of Emmanuel, that Emmanuel, the light and love of God's eternal presence, is with us always. Amen and amen.